Welcome to Work in Progress, Conversations with Creators. I'm your host, Logan Royce Beitman. I'm here today with Paula Poundstone, an incredible comedian who I used to watch on TV all the time when I was a kid. I really look up to her. She's a legend. We had a great conversation, very funny. I hope that you enjoy.
If you enjoy our podcast, please like and subscribe and consider becoming a digital subscriber to the Albuquerque Journal to help us bring you more content like this. You can find this episode and all of our podcasts on the Albuquerque Journal website, abqjournal.com, as well as YouTube, iTunes, and Spotify. See the show notes for a discount code on a digital subscription. Thank you for supporting the Albuquerque Journal, New Mexico's leading news.
Thank you, Paula, for being here. It's great to have you here on the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and you are coming to Albuquerque on April 3rd, and tell us about what people can expect.
Well, there'll be no injuries. Um, I I talk about my act is mostly autobiographical. I talk about what I'm doing and what I'm thinking about. I talk about raising a house full of animals. Occasionally, I tell a story from old about raising children. But my favorite part of any given night is just talking to the audience. I don't have a specific act. I use the time honored "Where are you from? What do you do for a living?" and from there, little biographies of audience members emerge, and I kind of use that to set my sails. So I don't always know what I'm going to talk about. I talk about my my past work history, which is largely centered on the International House of Pancakes.
Right.
Um, but I don't really have an act per se. I have 46 years of material rattling around somewhere in my head.
Sure. Yeah. No, I mean you're kind of known for your crowd work, and of course you're on NPR, doing Wait, Don't Tell Me. I think that's kind of like, I was trying to think, because I mean I grew up at a time when I feel like you were constantly on TV, like in like the late 80s, 90s, like, if I mean you had your own specials, your own TV show at one point, you were on Hollywood Squares and all that. It's like every time I turn to TV, it's like either it's going to be you or Sinbad or Bruce Valanche, right? And so I kind of grew up, like, and I watched everything. I love what you do, but then I was trying to think, like, what are like your sort of famous jokes? And I feel like that's not really like your thing. Like it's like you're very witty, you're very funny in the moment, you're a funny person, but it's not like you have like kind of signature jokes, like Richard Wright or something, Stephen Wright.
No,
I
not
mean,
for the
sorry.
most part. That's true.
Yeah.
It's an experience. Although people are so funny because occasionally somebody will tell me a joke that they love, that's mine, but it turns out it's not mine, and
Uh-huh.
I'm I'm so pleased that someone likes me, and then they tell me the line that they liked, and I'm like, yeah, that's not me. Uh, but yeah, I mean, my goal for any given night
Yeah.
is you know obviously it's for people to have a good time, a lot of laughter, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But also to feel a connection, because there's first of all, live entertainment, I think offers that, right? You're sitting mostly with strangers. I mean, you may be with friends, but outside the bulk of the people in the room are strangers to you. Um, but you're laughing at the same thing.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that does, particularly what I call the recognition laugh, which is where you're talking about something that people don't often even share with one another, maybe even out of some sort of embarrassment. But when someone else tells a story about, I don't know, something going wrong or the challenge of raising kids or the sort of thing that you really don't often share with other people, uh, and everybody starts laughing at it because they're like, "Oh my God, I have that. Oh
Right.
my gosh, I did that." And then you realize like how connected we are. That we're not,
Yeah.
as much as Americans like to believe we're all so unique, people always go, we're like snowflakes, that no two are alike. First of all, who checked the snowflakes? That's ridiculous. My guess is many snowflakes are alike. It's
Uh-huh.
just a guess. But I don't see how they could all be different, and I don't know who would know. They don't last that long, for one thing. Uh,
Right.
you know, if you have one on your finger so you can look at it, guess what? It melts. So I think for the most part that's been a myth. But the same thing about human beings. We have so much more in common than we have differences.
Yeah, yeah, although we are living in very divided times, and, I know
We
that
are, and I think there's a variety of reasons for that. Not the least of which is we have a con artist, and a what do you call it? Cult leader that is literally destroying the whole world. It's amazing. It's amazing. I mean, if somebody were to write if none of this had happened and somebody just wrote a movie about it, it
yeah,
would be a terrific movie, right? If it was all just made up, it would be so entertaining. Um, but so there's that. Uh, but the other thing is that somewhere along the way, because one of the devices cult leaders use, and one of the devices that uh, uh, what's the word? Authoritarians use is to convince us that, for example, immigrants are the problem. That's not a new technique. It's old as the hills.
yeah,
And why do
yeah.
they use it? They use it because it works. So the idea is to say, well, these people are so different from us, and these people are so different, and they're the problem. But so part of the technique that they use is to convince us that we do not have more in common than we have differences. And again, in America, I think that plays well because, that foolish, what's that stupid thing? Even Obama, who I love, says it. Oh, American exceptionalism.
Yeah.
What on earth was anyone thinking to come up with that stupid idea? I don't think that we are exceptional. I think that we fall into the same patterns as many, many societies. I mean, try as I might to be totally unique, I've missed the mark.
Well, but I guess speaking of politics, I heard you, or I saw a video of you. I don't know if it was a No Kings rally, but it was you were speaking to a group at a protest of some kind, fairly
I did
recently.
speak in Dallas at the first No Kings.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
and by the way, I almost passed out. It was
Really?
so damned hot. And, we were in a cementy downtown area, and, whew, I decided to wear a suit, so I gave him the deluxe,
Yeah, yeah.
and oh my god, and the thing is, the event itself, the planners, what they told me was that they had 2,000 RSVPs, and so they were expecting about 4,000 people, because that was the math that they used. They just doubled
Yeah,
the
yeah.
RSVP. Like, I don't know who told them that was a good formula, but formula. They estimate there were 10,000 people there, and they had waters, but they ran out of waters really early on. So there were 10,000 people that weren't expecting it to be that hot, weren't expecting there to be that many people, and who were dehydrated, all there together. So I was reading a quote that I had taken out a piece of paper from my pocket to read this quote, and I look at the paper is literally bouncing in my hand. And I'm like, "Uh-oh, that can't be a good thing." So I kept it pretty tight. Uh,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
there it was, all those people, which was just a great thing. And March 28th, by the way, is the next one, and we need even more and more people. And they are joyous occasions, those events.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I was gonna say it's like you did a kind of, routine, I mean, you did, like, your act. I mean, it was political, but it was, it was also funny, and I guess, maybe it wasn't necessarily the most ideal audience if they're all hot and sweaty and about to pass
Yes,
out,
they
but
were. Yes,
but it
and the
seemed like
sound system wasn't good there either because they didn't anticipate 10,000 people. I talk about politics, on stage, um, and again, my act is autobiographical,
yeah.
in the main. I talk about what I'm doing and what I'm thinking, and these days, I'm doing and thinking a lot regarding our democracy
Yeah.
and the situation that we're in. One of the things that I've been doing since mid-August, I started doing a series of videos. I call them "Hey Donald Trump" videos, and the premise is that I'm FaceTiming with him. The premise is that I'm talking directly to him, and I've made one every every day since then. And I also have another series of daily uh, 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 videos that don't really have a name, but it's a countdown until November 3rd. It's a countdown until the midterms,
Yeah.
wherein I give people uh, uh, it's something they can do each day in order to protect our democracy. That is not just hand wringing, because I don't know if there's ever been a study on this, but hand wringing doesn't help.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the same people that study the snowflakes, they could study hand
Yeah,
wringing, but,
exactly. There's
um
these ideas that we have that just don't, they just don't hold water. But anyway, so I've been doing those, and I also pay a lot of attention, as much as I possibly can, to what's going on.
yeah,
I listen to a lot of political this and that, and because now's the time, right? Because now, every now and then I'll get somebody that gets mad at me because I said something political on stage and they disagree with me. And I used to worry about that a lot because I want people to have a good time. I don't want to have a
yeah,
fractious event. But my feeling now is, and it's not the majority of what I do anyways, but all it takes is once for somebody to get upset. But my feeling now is that now is the time for courage.
yeah,
Now is the time to speak up, and that if we don't, we're going to lose everything.
yeah.
And and therefore I don't worry about that anymore. I make I make jokes about Donald Trump because dictators can't stand being made fun of, and so make fun of him I will.
Is it hard to make it funny? I mean, is it
No, not at all.
Well, no,
Not
because
at
I've
all.
heard other comedians say he's already so over the top and everything, you can't really satirize him and.
No, I don't find that at all. In fact, I every now and then I'll sort of struggle to come up with the "Hey Donald Trumps," but and I'm like, oh my gosh, because it's a couple minutes of talking or whatever. Um, but what have I done? Like, I think I've done maybe 200 of them now, or just a little under 200 of them, and every now and then I feel like, "Oh my gosh, I don't have anything," but for the most part, they almost rate themselves. And once I get started, once I have one idea, it all just, jumps out at you.
Yeah.
Years ago, and I feel this about Donald Trump, I hope you'll understand the analogy here. Years ago, uh, when I was 23 years old, I bought, I borrowed money from my managers I had at the time to buy a car. I bought a used car. It was a '65 Mustang, and it broke down every few feet. And it was in the shop over 40 times in 8 months. And every penny that I had that didn't go to, rent or food, I guess, went into that damn car, because everyone who could ripped me off. And I did a lot of jokes about it, right? Because it was my life. My life is
Yeah.
my act is largely autobiographical. I was on the side of roads. I was, riding in the front seat of the tow truck. It was my life was being, dealing with this silly, stupid car. And so one day I come home from yet another horrible incident with this car, and I'm just frustrated beyond belief. And one of my roommates, as I'm telling them, says to me, "Oh, well, you'll get some jokes out of it." And I almost I almost shot through the ceiling like a cartoon character. I was like,
Uh-huh.
I mean, that is such an unempathetic thing to say. I said, "You know what? If I need jokes, I'll make stuff up if I have to. I don't need my life to suck so I can have an act. And I feel that, because I remember 1,000 years ago when Clinton first got elected.
Yeah.
Literally, a camera crew from a news station came to my house, which they had asked if they could, and I said yes, to ask me, questions about Clinton getting elected. But the premise of their piece that they were doing, and that part I didn't know about ahead of time, was how will this be for comedy? And I was so annoyed by that. I'm like, who cares how it'll be for comedy? Right? We want people to have
Yeah.
healthy, good, productive lives. That's why we have a government. That's why we elect people. I don't care. I don't need Trump to be horrible to, or, to think of jokes. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll talk about something else. There's plenty of comedy to be harvested from all sorts of things about life. It would be okay for things to go smoothly.
Mhm.
I mean, this idea that comics thrive on things going badly is just plain stupid.
Yeah, yeah. But as long as things are going badly, you'll make some jokes about it, I guess, you know? You're
Well,
there
it
for
is
us.
nature's coping mechanism that
Yeah,
we've been given. And I am grateful for that coping mechanism because, yes, it does help in the worst of times. Um, and I don't know if other species have it.
yeah.
I'm pretty sure raccoons do,
Uh-huh.
and maybe dogs. And certainly anybody we're related to, like, monkeys or chimpanzees. But outside of that,
Not cats? You don't think they have that?
I don't think cats have a sense of humor. Um, Not as a coping mechanism, maybe to mock,
Mhm.
but no. Although when I'm recording these videos, and I often do it in the middle of the night, I'm generally sitting just in front of the stupid iPhone and it's on a tripod, blah blah blah. And while I'm sitting there, I have one cat that will insist on jumping up on my shoulder mid sentence, and oftentimes ends up coming to rest on the top of my head, sitting on my hat. So I think that cat might have a sense of humor.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that one's got star potential, I guess, you know?
Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah.
think they vie for that position, yeah. My
Yeah,
cat
yeah.
Larry has a following, actually.
Uh-huh, yeah. Um, well, my family always had cats. My mom has cats. I don't we never quite had as many as you. How many do you have now? It's,
I have 11,
11, okay.
yeah.
So, well, yeah.
Although I loaned one out. I loaned one out to a friend that, is, trying to recover from cancer, and
Okay.
I thought, it's a particularly sweet cat, and, she could use the she could my friend could use the snuggling.
Well,
Um,
that's really nice, yeah.
yeah, yeah, actually, I should have a business where I rent out my cats. That's a great
Yeah,
idea.
it is a good idea. I've heard of cat cafes, you know,
Yeah,
that's a yeah. So, you're almost there. Um, well, so, I when I think of you, I think you have a distinctive style that you've cultivated over the years. You often wear, the stripes and the polka dots and that kind of thing, and, which I love. How did that come about? When did you start doing that?
I started, kinda designing suits, um, because I was working on a cover for an album, with a woman that was, a wardrobe person, and, so we had gone to Western Warehouse, no, it's not Western Warehouse, that's a cowboy store in Dallas. We'd gone to Western Costume, which is this most amazing place. It's this huge costume house that television and movie and theater people use for costumes, and it is so large that they literally have street signs for the aisles that you walk down. It's just enormous, and I'd never been there before, but she took me there because I was doing the cover of a album called I Heart Jokes. Paula tells them in Boston, and I didn't have like wildly creative idea, but I was like, well, why don't I do it as like a Minuteman? The cover will be like me as a Minuteman.
Yeah.
And so we went there to get this Minuteman costume. And while we were there, I'm like, I've always wondered, you know, I like zoot suits. I've always
Uh-huh.
wondered if I'd look good in a zoot suit. And since we were there, she got me a zoot suit to try on, and it was way too like squarish and angular, and it didn't wasn't flattering to me. But because she's a wardrobe person, she gets out some clothespins and she's, well, what if we tucked it in here and did that? So between the two of us, we literally designed a pattern, and we went to fabric. When we go to the fabric store together, I'll go, I'll find something that's like thick stripes,
Yeah.
something that I think will show up well on stage and that I really like. And she'll go, well, that's great. How about if we look around some more? And, but generally speaking, I prevail. And, so we started making these suits together and it's worked out pretty good. What's really great about it is that I dress kind of like with Garanimals. Remember, I don't know if you're old enough to that was I think it was Sears maybe that came
I'm
out
trying
with
to
this line of
remember.
clothing. So the idea was that if you were too stupid to sort of match on your own, they had you put like the shirt had a giraffe emblem maybe on the tag, and the pants had a giraffe emblem on the tag, and
Yeah.
that's how you knew they went together.
I think I had these when I was a kid. I think I have a vague memory. It's way back there, but yeah, you're
Yeah.
unlocking something.
It's such a great and silly idea, but I
Yeah.
kinda dress with Garanimals now,
Granimals.
and I never shop for clothing anymore. Oh my
Yeah.
god, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and it kinda does have, like, a distinctive flair, I
Yeah,
guess.
no, I mean, it's great, and that's a great story. You know who I feel like kind of, has a little bit of your style now is, Sarah Sherman on
I don't know
SNL.
her.
But you don't know she goes by Sarah Squirm sometimes and does, like,
No, one of the joys of my life is that I work in theaters,
uh-huh,
and I work in theaters by myself. Every now and then when I'm coming to a town, like, I don't know, one time I was about to work in Minneapolis and I got an email from a Minneapolis comic. And he was said, how much he liked my work, blah, blah, blah. It was very nice. And he said he wanted to know if he could open for me at wherever I was going. I forget, the Guthrie or something.
yeah.
And I wrote back and I said, um, thank you for your interest. I said, let me tell you something. I am the most selfish comic in the entire world. I said, I have spent 40 something years building up an audience, and I do not share a minute of that time with anybody else. But one of the side effects of that is that I don't know anybody anymore. I don't know.
Uh,
People say names of comics to me, and I'm like, huh. Uh, most of the comics I know are deceased.
mm,
That's not true, all of them, but a lot of the guys that I worked with now,
yeah.
are, they come and they go. So yeah, I don't know a lot of other people, but I do, I generally do about 2 hours on stage, and, I don't know, the idea that I would give away even 10 minutes of that to somebody else is just too much for me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I admire that, you know? Are you in touch with any of the comics you knew when you were younger, when you were coming up in Boston or
So often, my friend Jim Tingle and I actually speak not infrequently, and Tingle's a Boston comic, and um, Stephen Wright and I we started about 2 weeks apart. Um, uh,
you're still in touch and you
yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
here and there, not frequently, not frequently by any means.
yeah.
A few years ago during the stay-at-home order, uh, Jimmy Tingle put together a like a fundraisery Zoom thing that was a reunion of there was a club in Cambridge called the Ding Ho. So the premise of the event, and this was when we were all stuck doing Zoom because of the stay-at-home order. So the premise of the event was that it was this reunion from the Ding Ho, and in fact, it was like a 40-year reunion.
Wow.
And um, I had not seen most of those guys in, you know, I don't know, 30 years or more. And boy, did they look different.
I mean, you gotta expect that, I guess, you know?
Yes, yes. I'm sure I look terribly different too. But um, it was really fun.
Yeah, yeah,
And we ended up, I mean, the show, if I don't even know how you can call it a show, but the Zoom event was because what Tingle would do is he would introduce a performer, he would play a clip of their work, because you can't do stand up via Zoom. So he
yeah,
would play a clip of their work, and then he would interview them for a couple of minutes. So each individual, it was a long show. I
yeah.
think it was like 4 or 5 hours.
Mm.
And I don't know how many viewers actually stayed on. I don't know, but, um, after the whole thing was over, we all stayed on Zoom for the longest time talking with each other because
Well,
it had
that's
been so
great.
long
Well,
since we'd
that's
seen one
really
another.
yeah,
It
that's
was really, really fun.
yeah.
Because there was a thing about hanging out with other comics, um, that was fun. I
Yeah.
sometimes I do miss that element.
I always wonder, like, when comics hang out with each other, like, are you trying to be funny and kinda one up each other, or are you just letting your guard
Sometimes.
down, you know?
Yeah, sometimes, sure, because it's fun.
Yeah.
I think that any comic that's hanging out with friends that aren't comics still tries to be funny
Mhm.
because that's just the way we look at things. That's just the thing, I remember one night I was lecturing my oldest daughter who had a tendency as she was growing up to get attention for very, very negative things. And so, I'm in her bedroom giving her the lecture about, getting attention. And all of a sudden, while I'm talking to her about this, it dawns on me that I get attention for a living. That's
Uh-huh.
my job. And when I thought of it that way, I sort of chuckled when that idea struck the side of my head. And I said to her, I go, honey, I get attention for a living. And I go, there's more than one kind of attention.
Right, right,
There are ways to, captivate people's attention, but not because you shoved the fruit from your lunchbox in between the seats on the school bus,
right, right, right.
which she
Although
did.
there's some comics who do that. There's Gallagher, right? Sort of,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. She was a precursor. Yeah,
Yeah,
she was a post Gallagher.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I mean, there's not anything I think inherently wrong with getting attention. I guess it depends what kind of attention,
yeah.
and timing is everything.
Right, right.
You know.
I'm curious kind of what your process is like, and I know, I mean, I guess when you're kind of inventing things on the fly, extemporaneously, that may be different, but, when you have like a joke or routine that you're kind of crafting, um, like what's that like for you? Like a very orderly kind of process? Are you like
No, no. I mean, in terms of being a stand-up, I every now and then will think of something. It's often in conversation with somebody
yeah.
where something's happening in real time and I make a joke about something, in which case, because my memory is just horrible, I literally carry a pen clipped to my belt loop, and I have a tiny notebook in my back pocket, and I'll write down, maybe not the whole thing, but just enough couple of keywords that can remind me of what the funny thing was so that I can write it in my notebook that I carry with me to jobs. But on any given night, um, in terms of like trying something new that I thought of ahead of time, in that way, so it's a note in my notebook, I probably can't introduce more than one or two things that I came across that way in a night because I won't be able to remember them.
Mhm.
Um, Sometimes I do, but my memory is really rocky. Uh, eh, um,
And it's always been that way, right? You always had this, sort of
Yeah, yeah,
memory?
yeah.
Yeah.
It's really part of the way part of the reason that I work the way I do
Yeah.
is, uh, my memory is just so not trustworthy that what would happen is I would have my big 5 minutes memorized when I first started, and, uh, I would go on stage and get so nervous that it would all just fall out of my head, and therefore, I was forced to just talk to the audience,
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
sometimes in the course of doing that, what happens is it reminds me of something else. I would say on a good night, and I like to think many are, probably a third of what I say is unique just to that night, and I'll never
Yeah.
say again. And my old managers that I had, like, 30 something years ago, uh, they used to say to me that I needed to record my act. So comics back then, we all carried around these cassette
Yeah,
recorders,
yeah.
and I had to record my act so that when I said something, just off the top of my head,
Yeah.
um, that it didn't evaporate, that I would have it to say it another time. And there were two problems with that. One is I can't stand listening to myself. So to listen to a whole set that I did was just painful to me.
Mm.
But the other is even if I wrote that thing down, it didn't feel the same if I tried to do it again.
Right,
And
right.
so I gave up on that idea a long time ago. What I try to do is just leave um, fertile ground for new things to spring up.
Yeah.
And I feel pretty confident that they will. And so I don't need, like, in the old days, comics used to have their heckler lines, which
Mhm.
kind of turns my stomach a little bit. Um, but but they did. And if someone didn't heckle them because they had this great heckler line, they would literally provoke someone
Right.
to have, like, a thing with them so that they could use their heckler line. And I'm like, okay, A, that's gross.
Uh-huh.
Uh, and B, I don't have hecklers anyways. I have people that are enjoying the show.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and generally, it's very rarely is there anything adversary that happens in my shows. But um, and I don't have like a mean comeback for anybody anyways because it's just not how I feel.
Yeah.
Uh, but anyways, I just like everything to kind of come from this fertile ground where anything could happen.
Yeah.
Um,
No, that's beautiful, and I think it's exciting for audiences because they can see you multiple nights, it'll be a completely different show, you know?
yeah, I
So
rarely play in the same place like 2 nights in a row, but I do in Alexandria, Virginia. I do 2 nights in a row because it's a small venue, and sometimes I do 3 nights in a row there, and I love when audience members come up to me. I usually do a meet and greet, not always, but often after the show, and, I love it when audience members come up to me and say, "We saw you last night also," and the first thing I say is, "Was it different?" And they're always like, "Oh, yes." Because some lines I might repeat for sure, but I just love that I don't know, that they had a different experience each
yeah,
time.
yeah, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being here, it's been a real pleasure, speaking with you, and I'm excited to see you when you come through Albuquerque.
Cool. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.